All right, guys, welcome back into another episode to the Show Baseball Podcast, presented by Beyond the Monster. I am your host, Andrew Parker. Today's episode, we are diving into the Minnesota Twins system. I got Michael Ross on, who is coming off a Player of the Week award for his outing in Fort Myers a couple weeks back. But, you know, we kind of talk about his first full year in pro ball over the last year when he came out of Sanford. And he has had a great year for Fort Myers this year. So we do kind of dive into that, just kind of like how he's adjusting to pro ball and, show some love to Sanford as well, because he was my first ever guy from Sanford on this show. But before I shoot to the interview, whether you're listening to me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or if you're watching me right now on YouTube, please like, subscribe. I would love to try to gain some more subscribers on YouTube. I am trying to make a push there. So if you are on YouTube, it is free to subscribe. So please do that. I appreciate every single one. But yeah, without further ado, let me shoot you on to the interview with Michael Ross. All right, I am joined by Michael Ross, and I want to, you're coming off a Player of the Week award a couple weeks back. I know we're not fresh off of it, but still in the rearview mirror here, pretty close by. But that's where I want to begin. So, Michael, you obviously were named a Player of the Week for your outing that you had down in Fort Myers. How cool is it to just be like, I guess, put out there by minor league baseball? They put over the slides every week and everything. How cool is that to just have that recognition?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to do it and then to get the recognition, but it's kind of one of those things where because I think I threw on it's towards maybe the latter half of the week, but I think it was closer to the middle of the week, and then you're already preparing for the next start, which would be like 6 days from the last one, so you're kind of in like the blinders on mode, and then the Monday like off day rolled around, and I was out playing golf like when it came out, and I was just like, oh, like I kind of forgot like the outing feels like forever ago, but no, it's cool. It was nice to see it for sure.
And it was one of your, I think it probably was, I could assume that it's probably your best outing of the year that you've had so far. You only gave up the one hit. You went the deepest you've gone all year. Did you kind of feel it that day? Like you were in a groove a little bit, obviously giving up one hit, you were doing something right. So like, did you feel anything different that day? Like what was working for you?
Yeah, honestly, the past couple of weeks, yeah, have been going really well. Kind of like ever since we've gotten back from the All-Star break, and I guess that day, yeah, it was kind of one of those things where like I like looked up like in the fifth, and it all happened pretty fast, and I was like, oh man, it's still perfect. But then I think, yeah, like it came out for the sixth inning and had like a leadoff walk, and it was kind of like just like a wake up call, like, oh, okay, yeah, like nah, it's not gonna last the whole game. But I think that day specifically, I don't know. I mean, so I'm from Lakeland, and that was actually against the Lakeland Flying Tigers. So like that was a team that I grew up watching my entire life, which that was pretty cool. And my parents were able to make it to the game too. But I would say just getting back to like prioritizing first pitch strikes and filling up the zone probably has it been a big goal of mine for the second half of the season. I definitely did that well that day. So I would say that was probably the biggest adjustment that I noticed, where I was able to execute that really well.
You've been doing something pretty unique this year as well, and you even your last couple outings have been different. You've come out of the bullpen for one. I know it was for length. It was kind of like a piggyback thing. You weren't like a true reliever, but you've been coming out of the bullpen and you've been starting games this year. How has
Hmm.
that been, I guess, adjusting like, from week to week, perhaps? Like I've seen you had you had a stretch where you were starting for a while, but, earlier this year you were coming out of the bullpen and you were starting. Is that hard to adjust to?
Yeah, maybe the first time that I did it, like earlier in the year, but just like the schedule that we have, there's a couple guys that stay on a 7 day, and then there's most of us have like a 6 day schedule. So when we fall on that day, we do have to do the piggyback. But now I feel like I can do a pretty good job of kind of just like treating it like a start, and now I know how to like time it out to where I would do my normal like pre-start stuff like going into the game, which can get a little tricky depending on like it's obviously not set in stone how many innings like that guy's gonna go if things aren't going well. But I think it's definitely been easier. Maybe the first like time or two. It was just because I hadn't come out of the bullpen since like my freshman year of college. So it's kind of like just learning how to do that again. But now I think, yeah, now it's been a pretty easy adjustment the last couple of times I've had to do it. Yeah.
Did you tap back into the adrenaline and everything? Like, I always hear guys saying like coming out of the bullpen, it's like you're kind of running off adrenaline a little bit, especially like those lane inning relievers. But, have you had to like kind of get yourself back in a mindset, like back in the bullpen and be like, okay, like I've got to come in, I got to get loose right now. And it's like, you kind of didn't know when it was coming.
Yeah, maybe I would say honestly the most recent time that I did it, but not until like the eighth or the ninth inning, just because it was like, man, I don't even remember last time I like closed a game. Like I was like, it would have been like a complete game like in college, where it's like you get that ninth inning, like the last three outs level of adrenaline. But that actually was pretty cool. It's like, man, the last time that I was on the mound in the ninth inning, it's been a while. So I would say, yeah, you definitely do get it's a little different of a feel. Like the fans are like clapping you home like the last like three outs of the game and stuff. So yeah, that's actually pretty fun to do.
And I know you're a true starter. I know that's what you like doing, but I know you at least deep down enjoyed just a tad, just finishing out that game. I know it had to feel kind of good.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool feeling for sure.
Okay, cool. Well, obviously we're talking about your year so far. It's your first year in pro ball. You haven't had like, I guess we're just a little over a year since you officially were drafted and turned professional. So I want to look back at the past year. Like, how has pro ball been for you? Has it been what you expected? Has it been, have you seen different challenges you weren't expecting? Like, I guess, how was it in your eyes?
Yeah, honestly, um, I mean, I wasn't too sure exactly like what to expect. I know obviously the big thing is like no more class, right? Like from college. So that's been nice. But yeah, it's definitely a lot easier to like to go all in on baseball just because like if you wanted to, like you could have it just consume you. So there's definitely like a balance like of finding like outlets and still not letting it completely consume you. But I mean, you can really dive in and get into the weeds, like had never really even looked at a bunch of stuff that the Twins do a great job of, like with biomech stuff. Like I had never seen any of that until I got to pro ball. Like at school, like I loved our process at school, and our pitching coach at school was awesome, but a lot of it was, like mentality based, like just go out there and compete and like be the best version of yourself and like just trust yourself every time you go out there. And that I'm grateful for that because that is a big part of pitching. But I think the thing that I needed to make kind of the next step that I've made is like breaking down a delivery, understanding what makes me throw hard, doing pitch design stuff, like understanding how my pitches move and how to utilize them correctly and in what counts. And like it gets very, very into the weeds, and I love it. And um, we've definitely, or they've done a good job of exposing me to that this year. And then I think just like the schedule is would be the other adjustment. I mean, spring training's a little different because you show up in the morning and you kind of like get your work done, and then you go home for the day. But now you got up until about like 12:30, 1 o'clock, and then you lunch and head over to the field, and then you're at the field until like midnight. So I mean, you're pretty much at the field all day, and uh, so you really gotta love it, and I do, and it definitely still hasn't started to feel like a job, so I'd say that's a good sign. But it's I'd say those are the two biggest adjustments. Honestly, like the game is it still felt like the same game, so I don't think I've let just the change of now that I'm getting paid to do it, I don't think I've let that have too much like weight into keeping it just a game.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good way to put it. And you actually just brought up something kind of unique that I did want to ask you about as well. You obviously being I've done over 200 of these episodes, right? Like where I have guys on all around minor league baseball, and you are my very first guy from Sanford, actually. I've
Oh,
never
really?
had. So
Sweet.
shout out to them, and which I will ask you about in a little bit here. But you brought up something interesting, and it's something that every guy who turns pro, especially pitchers, have to deal with, and it's the access to the data and analytics and everything
Yeah.
that the professional teams have, and you had brought it up, you're like, hey, you're kind of getting introduced to all of it for the first time. Like maybe
Mhm.
Stanford or whatever school a lot of the guys have come from don't really have access to a lot of that. Would you consider yourself like a pitching nerd? Like, do you like seeing all your shapes and you see like the IVB and like everything? Like, are you interested in all that, or are you just kind of like, I've talked to some guys and they're like, I just want to throw the ball over the plate and do it
Yeah.
well. Like, so where do you fit on that scale?
Yeah, I would say I'm definitely farther towards the nerd side of
Okay.
like I like getting all the data. When push comes to shove, I think I can do a good job of just like throwing that all out the window and going and competing because of like the background and like the 4 years I had at school. That was it. So like we did a little bit of TrackMan stuff like at school. So luckily I wasn't like flying blind into whenever I got like all of that introduced to me here, but um, yeah, no, I love getting all of it. I was a finance major in college too, so I'm kind
Oh,
of a
there it
numbers
is.
guy, yeah. But
Okay.
it's I definitely like getting all of the numbers.
Yeah, I feel like it's like there's two sides because I was kind of surprised too. Even some of like the new draftees, even like 2025, 24, like some of the younger guys, they're just like,
Yeah,
oh, like I just want to throw the ball over the plate. Like they're very old school with it, and I was very
yeah,
surprised by it because I would have thought more guys would think like you do, where it's like I want to know my shapes, I want to know everything, I want to know why this pitch is effective, this pitch is not effective, whatever it is.
yeah,
So.
definitely.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I was always curious about that, but now I want to shout out Sanford here. First guy I've ever had on there. I'm not too familiar with it. I know you were set to transfer to Florida before you were drafted, but obviously you went pro instead. But I want you to give some love to Sanford here. What was it like playing there, and I guess what was your experience like there?
Yeah, no, I mean I have nothing but good things to say about that program and that school. I mean, like as soon as I got there, like when I visited, I kind of like knew that that's where I wanted to go out of high school, and the recruiting process was pretty quick for me. And then like getting on campus and having the 4 years there, I don't think I could have made any closer connections with like staff, like the coaching staff or like the guys on the team. Like I'll always be thankful for those like relationships and just like as a school. I mean the religious values were important to me, like going there out of high school, and then I think that played a role into like why those like connections that I made there are going to be so long lasting. And as a program, I mean, we won a lot of games and we were very successful and made some regionals and had a run at it. So that was fun too. But yeah, no, I mean, my experience at Stanford was awesome, and I'll tell everybody that. And anybody that's interested in going there, I definitely would recommend it.
Yeah, and I did read up that you missed a year due to the old TJ surgery that grabs everyone, and
Yeah.
obviously you came back in your last year at Sanford and you did very very well coming back after surgery. Do you think that last year that you had in college kind of prepped you for what you're experiencing right now in Fort Myers?
I think so. Yeah, I think not just the last year, but also my junior year that I missed and redshirted because like I mean you learn a ton. One like about yourself just going through that process, and two like about the game when you can just like sit back and watch it and you're not like concerned with competing. Like you notice stuff that you wouldn't have otherwise noticed. Um, but yeah, that was really big for me was because I did the TJ rehab in like 10 months and change, like 10 months and a couple of weeks, which is very expedited for a full TJ process.
Yeah, it
Because
is.
I knew that I wanted to be back for like week one of my senior year, and then for it to go like the way that it did, like was awesome. I mean, there were a lot of things that had to go right, and like they all did go right, and a lot of that was because like the training staff at school and the coaches keeping the faith in me and just being able to like be back and be the best version of myself in 10 months. So it all happened really fast, honestly. Like once the rehab took forever, and then like I hit the ground kind of running, like coming out of it, and it went by super fast. But yeah, it was a pretty fun year of baseball, just to not take it for granted too, of actually being able to play again.
Feel like that needs to be studied. Your rehab process. You're right up there with like the Aaron Rodgers Achilles tear, where it was like
Oh
he was
yeah, that's
walking
right.
in like a week, and I'm just like, you came back in 10 months.
I know. Yeah, it's like now, like talking to guys that have it here, well, because in pro ball you can like afford to, like play it safe and kind of not drag it out, but like play it
Yeah.
safe, like take like the recommended timeline. But like when I told him I did it in like 10 months, like 10 months, like I'm like starting to throw off the mound like bullpens at 10 months. But yeah, it was. I mean, I'm just like thankful that they let me do it, honestly. Like, and the surgeon that I had, like we were like in talks with him like the whole time. We were like, "Is this something that we could do?" And he's like, You could do it. Like, it's definitely possible."
Wow.
So
It's impressive, man. That is, like you said, it's like in pro ball. I know it wasn't in pro ball when it happened, but in pro
yeah,
ball, as you probably see down in the complex, it's like these guys are down there for a year and a half
yeah,
minimum sometimes, and it's like it seems forever, man. But kudos to you, 10 months. That is great. Okay, I want to ask you. I think I know what your answer is going to be right here, but I want to ask. Obviously, every week you have an off day on Monday, and I know you kind of preluded to this earlier that you were on the golf course when you figured out you were player of the week. But when you have that day off on Monday every week, what are you doing in your free time?
yeah. I'd say golf is definitely the biggest one. I'd say like our biggest off day activity, but sometimes you kind of just need that to use that day. It's like a reset day and like catch up on your sleep for the week. Like get a lot of food in you and then like sleep in and then even like work a nap in there or something. But if it's not one of those reset days, yeah, definitely out on the golf course for sure.
Yeah, you're also in a great spot for it as well. Obviously, being in Florida, it's and you're from Florida too, so I know
Yeah.
there's tons of good golf courses down there. So might not be Minnesota might be a little underrated. Once you get up to AAA, St. Paul, even like I don't know, I feel like they probably have some good courses up there. But
Definitely not as hot up in Minnesota either.
yeah, yeah, some days probably won't be out there, but that leads me actually to my next question. Obviously, you said you kind of grew up near Lakeland, and that was kind of where you call home. And has it been interesting for you, obviously being down in Fort Myers and being so close to home? Like, has that been like a good thing? Has that been a bad thing? Like, I guess what have you thought about that?
Yeah, it's so obviously like for school, I mean I was an 8.5 hour drive from home, so like I was not close to home when I went to school for 4 years, and now it's like, I mean I haven't been, I guess off day like I probably could go home, but um like when we play in Lakeland, I was actually able to stay at my house for those like five nights, which that was super nice, and we've done that twice, or we had a split series with them the second time, so it was like 2 or 3 nights, but. No, I mean that was super cool to just to be able to go home and spend the time with my parents. But yeah, the biggest thing I would say honestly is, I mean my parents like definitely made an effort to get as many games as possible in college, but just because it was so far, like there was only so many they could make. But now, like what playing in the Florida State League, it's been super easy for them to travel and to make those games like in Tampa, Clearwater, or down here in Fort Myers. So that's been a cool thing is to see them like being able to make so many of my starts.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think about it. Some guys, obviously, they might be Florida guys, and they get drafted by the Angels or Dodgers, and they're out
Yeah.
in they're out in California, and it's just like your family's 3 time zones away, and
No, yeah, my brother's playing in my brother's with the Nationals and he's in high A, which is in like Delaware, I think, or like
yep,
somewhere like in
I
the,
think Wilmington, yeah,
yeah, Wilmington, that's it. And so like my mom's like trying to plan a trip to go see him, but then she's like, oh, I gotta take off work for like a week, like just to go up there and like to watch him play.
yeah, they'll be there with you before you know it. Obviously, once you start progressing through the levels in that system, you'll be up north, so you'll have plenty of that in store. All right. I got one question left for you here before I let you slide. We are into August. It is almost mid-August, so the end of the season is quickly approaching.
Yeah.
But for yourself, obviously we don't have much left in terms of season. So for you, to end on a high note, what do you have like set for goals wise, whether they're numbers, whether they're, personal goals or like statistical anything? Like
Mhm.
what do you want to accomplish before the end of the year?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's honestly come up pretty fast. Like the season is definitely on paper very, very, very long. And but like it hasn't felt like it at all. So the fact that we are like nearing the end is kind of crazy. And I've been here at our like academy and complex since January 5th. So like it's been like over half a year, but it's gone by very fast. But yeah, to end the year, I mean, we've got our goals, like our pitch design goals and our like process goals, which are like very numerical related, but honestly, just like controlling the things that I can control and keeping like this groove that I've kind of on or been on for the past couple of weeks, kind of just like riding that steady out through the year, throwing with a lot of confidence. And I think that I would say probably like the biggest goal would just be to like feel good about every outing and know that like I went out there and just like competed and felt like at the end of the day that I got like one step closer to where like the ultimate end goal is. Like I could say at like I'm throwing tonight, so like I could say like when I'm going to bed tonight that like I got better than I was before I made my next outing.
Well, I had no idea you were throwing tonight, so I do apologize if this took you out of your routine, but I
I
do
know it's all
appreciate
good.
doing this. But all right, Michael, I appreciate all the time. Obviously, wishing you the best of luck as we come towards the end of 2025 and your first full year in pro ball. But thank you so much for hopping on and doing this.
Yeah, no, thank you, Andrew. It's awesome.